Hey, everybody. This is Heidi St. John. Welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. I'm doing something today that I love to do, and that is interview pastors who know what time it is politically. Scott Bottoms is joining me today on the show. He is running for governor in the great state of Colorado, and we're going to hit on some of the issues of the day. We're going to be talking about Venezuela. We're going to be talking about human trafficking, but more than that, I really want to focus our attention on why God's people should engage in politics. It matters more now than it ever has, and I think we're going to make a good case for it today. I'm glad you guys are here. This is the Heidi St. John podcast. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Thank you guys for listening today. I hope you're gonna share this. I hope you're gonna share this with a friend of yours who's wrestling with whether or not he may or may not be a Christian nationalist. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. Before I get into it, I want to say thanks to the primary sponsor of the Heidi St. John podcast. We are being sponsored in part by our friends at the Functional Medical Institute out of the great state of Oklahoma. You can find out more about them by going to homeschoolhealth.com. Please be sure and check out their entire store while you're there. And if you like what you see, and I know that you will, which by the way, you should, because RFK just turned the food pyramid upside down. Finally, could you guys hear me cheering? Could you hear me cheering? Because I heard that news when I was in the shower today, and I was literally cheering. My husband had come running upstairs because he thought there was a spider in the shower. And no, I was telling him, no spiders in the shower. RFK just turned the food pyramid right side up. Listen, Doctors Mark and Michelle have been talking about this for a long time. They've got a bunch of great stuff there at homeschoolhealth.com. And if you use the coupon code Heidi, you'll get 20% off. And thanks, RFK. I mean, for goodness sake. All right, without further ado, I'm really excited to have Dr. Scott Bottoms here. He currently serves as a representative for the Colorado House, District 15 in El Paso County. He's in his second term. He is also, and this is what makes me so excited, the lead pastor of Church at Briargate in Colorado Springs, where I have attended in the short time that I lived in the Springs. And he's been there for 13 years. Prior to this role, he served in churches all across Colorado. He holds a bachelor's in church ministries, a whole bunch of other stuff I'm not going to read to you, except for the fact I want to highlight that he's a proud U.S. Navy veteran, served 8 years active duty. Dr. Scott, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Northwest.
Yeah, thank you. I love being here. Just a small correction. I was in the Navy, but I served most of that reserves, not active duty.
Not active duty. You need to fix that.
I do need to fix it. Is that on my stuff?
They sent it to me, and I don't think we made it up. So, yeah. Pretty great, though. You've been married to your wife for 35 years?
35 years.
35
Just
years.
A few weeks ago, we celebrated 35 years.
That's fabulous. So you got married in 90?
Got married in 90. We're both 20 years old. I had also just got in ministry right before that. I'd been a youth pastor for about 3 or 4 months, and then we get married because I got a full-time job.
I think you're like right behind me. I got married in 89.
89?
So when you said 35 years, I was like, I bet that's 90 right
Yeah, I was just a kid in 89.
Yeah. Still a kid, apparently, yeah.
Yeah, we were 20 years old.
Yeah, that's a good age to get married. I was just talking to a pastor friend of mine, Pastor Sean out of Battleground, and he was saying that his daughter is thinking about getting married. And he was like, dude, I say get married young. I mean, I was 19 when I got married. My husband was 21. Best thing we ever did was not waste our 20s. We got married.
Plus, you grow up together. You don't have all these established problems and issues that cause
those
you
come later.
issues. Yeah, you develop those over time.
You develop your problems over time rather than getting married with problems and having to sort them through. Now they're your shared problem.
Yeah, then they're all your spouse's fault instead of just growing up separate from that. So
yeah. Really true. So this is fascinating to me. You know, my audience is very familiar with my passion for politics and my desire to see God's people engage in every sphere of influence. But still, I would say it's relatively rare to find somebody who's pastoring and also serving in a political manner of any form, whether it's city government or in the state legislature like you are. I want to hear kind of the story of how you decided to blend ministry and politics.
Yeah, it's a kind of a strange storyline because for me, I didn't see it happening until it was happening, right? I've always been politically charged. I've always talked about stuff from the pulpit. I've never believed this mentality, although I have been to multiple seminaries, and so it is kind of taught there. It is kind of underground. You should not mix politics.
100%. I went. Yes. My husband and I went to Multnomah School of the Bible, and a lot of our friends. We've been in ministry for a long time, and this is. It's the mantra, whether it's spoken or not. It's the mantra of Bible colleges and seminaries across the United States.
It's the expectation. You don't bring politics into the pulpit. The problem with that, I mean, we could spend all of that on just this subject,
sure.
but the problem is Jesus was very engaged with all the politics of the day. John the Baptist got beheaded because he got involved in politics. And Jesus never said, "Oh, John, you shouldn't have done that. You deserve this now." I get this stuff forever, but I've always talked about politics. I've always talked about.
Wait, I want to go back a little bit because there's some people going, Jesus wasn't political. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. So you've got two basic political groups at the time, right? You've got the Jewish side, and then you've got the Roman side. Mm-hmm. And
what, you telling me that there were some political aspects to the Pharisees and the Sadducees?
They were only political.
What?
Yes, they were leaders of the church, but this had so degraded by the time that Jesus came on the scene that everything they were doing was political and
pulling the strings with the Roman government.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why you have, even when Paul later is brought before Festus and Agrippa and these things, you're seeing where there's that is the blend between the Jewish community and the Roman community having to do with leadership. That's why Paul petitioned to Rome, all of these things. Well, Jesus calls the Pharisees out very directly, and he calls them out on a legal, which we would say a religious basis, but that's not how the Pharisees were operating. They were operating on a legal basis. This is why you do this and this is why you wash your hands and all these other kind of things. And so when Jesus crossed the line, what did they do? The Jewish leadership, they immediately went to the Roman government.
That's right.
And so
which ultimately had him killed.
Yes. Yeah, and I've got a Jewish friend of mine that always says, "Well, Christians blame us Jews for killing Jesus." Well, it was three different groups of people. First, it was the Pharisees, and then it was the Jews. But here's who Jesus said it was. It was me, my sin. My sin is what crucified Jesus. He voluntarily did that. So there's only so much you can blame on the Pharisees.
Yeah, they didn't
and
take
the
his
Romans.
life. He laid it down.
He voluntarily, because of my sin. And so, yeah, Jesus was very, very politically attacking, and even when he went in, and I always get this also as a pastor, that I'm supposed to be this meek and mild person, that I'm never supposed to do anything. Well, when Jesus saw what was happening in the temple, which was religious hypocrisy at the highest, but it was approved by the Roman government to accomplish this, he systematically, patiently sat down and made a whip, patiently, very politely walked into the temple and then just kicked everybody's rear. And so I want to.
He called them names.
Yes, threw their tables over, threw their money all over
Brood
the place.
of vipers.
And that somehow I'm supposed to just be this meek and mild person that never gets engaged in the political arena. That makes no sense. Our children are being murdered in the political arena. Yes. Our children are being groomed in the political arena. Our state is being taken over and destroyed, and our country is being taken over and destroyed by the political arena. And we're not supposed to engage in this. It makes no sense. I think the Lord is very discouraged with the church today, just on this issue, obviously a lot of other issues, but very discouraged because the church won't stand up and defend the widows and the orphans. Yeah. They won't stand up and defend the children and defend the
or those who are being taken away to die.
Yes.
Chief of them would be the unborn.
Yes, the unborn. This is a massacre that the church is going to have the blood on their hands. Yes. The reason we have abortion so strong in this country is because the church has watched it happen. And I just came across this statistic the other day. This is like a week ago, and my wife and I sat and talked for a long time about this. Over 60% of abortions in our country are being had by women that believe that they are Christians and part of the church. And we say we're not, that we're not doing, we're not supposed to be doing anything. It drives me crazy. I have been seeing some good efforts in Colorado. The church has been very, very quiet in Colorado. And
for a long time.
Yes.
I mean, this isn't new. I mean, I used to live in Colorado. My family's from Littleton. And so I've watched this kind of phenomenon my whole life. And the same thing can be said of Washington State and Oregon. I was born in Portland. It didn't used to always be this crazy. Yeah. But the church literally ceded the territory. The church was like, you know what? You guys are right. We don't belong here. You do it, and we'll sit out and pray for you.
Well, abortion was made legal in Colorado 3 years before Roe versus Wade. We were the very first state ever. That's why I believe very strongly that Colorado is the high places mentioned in Scripture. And
Wow.
and this has been a big prayer of mine. I could unpack it a little bit if you want, but I believe that one of my primary responsibilities as governor is to tear down the high places. And so I spend a lot of time praying and thinking about that. I don't want, when I'm finished with 4 years or 8 years or however long God allows me, I don't want God to say, like he did with many kings in the Old Testament, that he was a good king. He followed the Lord, but he didn't tear down the high places.
And we sure saw
I
that
will not.
over and over again.
I will not do that.
What does it mean to you to tear down the high places?
Well, I'm still figuring some of this out. Actually, I thought I knew what it meant a few years ago. But I don't think high places are geographical in this context. Okay, once you get past the cross, a lot of things change. The concepts of the Old Testament are still there, but they're foundational.
Yes.
So you have to figure out how they play out because the bar's raised on every single thing. None of it's lowered. Okay, and so the high places, I believe, are more attitudes and spiritual mentalities, and Ephesians 6, the principalities, powers, and high places, and things like that. So I really am spending a lot of time praying about this. Obviously, abortion, obviously grooming, those are things that we have got to tear down. These are the spiritual blights against our country and against our state. And
for which we will be judged.
we will be judged for this. And I don't mean just people. The church will be judged.
The nation.
Yes.
I mean, God judges nations. And a lot of this is it's the passivity of God's people who have been given responsibility for the times in which we live and have done literally nothing.
And I would say it's intentional passivity. We can't hide behind the we didn't know. So back in the late 60s, early 70s, as we're seeing abortion, the subject, and then Colorado makes it legal, then Roe versus Wade, all these things. Okay, there might have been maybe a conversation that could have had back then that maybe we didn't really understand all the stuff. But I still believe a casual reader of Scripture, while I was in the womb, you knew me and you set me apart. You sanctified me to be a voice of prophecy to the nations. So I just think nowadays there's no excuse. It's intentional.
It's willful blindness.
Willful.
It's willful blindness, and I think this is the reason why we will incur judgment for it.
Yes.
This was under our watch, and the church has allowed it, and the pulpits have allowed it, largely through their silence.
Yeah. The pulpits are more concerned about the 3 B's. This is what I have said for years. I've been talking about this stuff for 25 years. I just now have a political space to shout it out in a different arena. But pastors are more concerned about bucks, money, buildings that they build, and butts that are in the seat.
It's so true.
That's all they care
100%,
about.
100%, yeah.
They're not concerned about. I ask this question all the time to pastors. If you knew that your church was going to grow this year, next year, let's say the next 5 years, what percentage is not important. But if you knew your church was going to grow, but nobody in that growth turned their hearts to Jesus, none of them did. They all just started coming to your church.
Tithing to your church.
Tithing, sitting in the building. Would you be okay with that? It makes pastors very uncomfortable because most pastors are okay with, even if they just maintain and they can keep their salary, if nobody's getting saved, nobody's lives being changed, nobody's being transformed by the knowledge and the blood of Jesus Christ, well, it's okay as long as I got my job. As long as I'm, I can write my book or do whatever the case is. And man, that stuff drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah. It drives you absolutely crazy because you're a shepherd.
I think so.
Yeah. And God's called you to be a shepherd. And I've been doing a series, and I'm going to stick you in it because you fit just beautifully, a bold pastor series called Shepherds in the Storm. And I've been talking to Jack Hibbs and Amir and other people who have taken a bold stand and have taken a lot of hits for it. And the reality is, unless and until we have more people who know Jesus and love him and want to follow him in obedience, right, and actually step out of the 4 walls of our churches and out into the culture, we're going to continue to see the moral decline. We're going to continue to see the nation decline. I mean, we're declining in every way. and the nation right now. We're on the verge of the midterms. If we lose the midterms, you can be guaranteed that President Trump's going to be a lame duck president. They're going to try to impeach him. It's going to start all over again. They're trying to ruin the lives of everybody who's in the Trump administration. And yet, as you pointed out before we started recording today, every single election, millions and millions and millions of Christians do not engage.
No, they don't.
They won't even engage with the simplest of acts, which is simply to understand the issues and vote. Well, by now you guys know that my last year medically was pretty challenging for me. In February, I was diagnosed with a tumor, and I'm not going to lie to you guys, it scared the living daylights out of me. And one of the very first things that I did after calling my husband was reach out to my friends, Dr. Mark and Michelle Sherwood at the Functional Medical Institute. And these guys walked me through from the diagnosis to the surgery to treatment to recovery and did not miss a thing. I praise the Lord for the work these guys are doing. It was their decision to put me on peptides, and those peptide injections and the advice that they gave me, I think, is one of the main reasons why my recovery was such a success. I was back on the road 6 weeks before the doctors anticipated that I would be. And of course, beyond the power of prayer, which you guys know I believe in, I am so thankful for the work of the Functional Medical Institute. So whether you guys are where they are in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or you are somewhere else around the country like I am, I want to commend them to you. Reach out right now by going to homeschoolhealth.com to get connected with the work that Dr. Mark and Michelle Sherwood are doing at the Functional Medical Institute.
Yeah, and this greatly is at the feet of the pastors. They're not encouraging their people to vote. They're not ever mentioning the conversations. We have some petitions that have been working through Colorado. We're trying to get on the ballot in 26, and I think they will. But they have to do with transgender surgeries on minors and boys and girls sports and things like that.
It's shocking that we're even having this conversation.
Yes.
It's shocking.
Well, our church is one of the places where the petitions, you can come pick up the petitions. Mm-hmm. Most churches will not even have them.
I know, it's true. Yeah.
And we had a guy come to our church. I
Why
wasn't
do you
there.
think that is? Is for something as basic as, hey, let's not chop the breasts off of a 14-year-old girl. For something as basic as protecting the innocence of children and the dignity of these young people who are struggling, why? What would keep a church from not having that petition at their front door?
So you've got leadership, and I've already explained why the leadership wouldn't.
Yes.
They don't want to. You can't scare anybody off. You can't say anything negative. I just had a meeting because I'm talking to pastors all over our state. For 3 years, I've been driving around trying to get pastors to listen to me. Nothing for 2.5 years, and then this last year, 25, I started seeing the wall break, and literally I'm meeting with hundreds and hundreds of pastors now across
Praise
Colorado.
the Lord.
Well, I sat with a pastor in Colorado Springs, and somebody in my church, somebody I know in the political arena goes to this guy's church, and he said, "Can you come meet my pastor? He needs to hear you say some of this stuff." I'm like, okay. In my head, I'm thinking, this is not going to go the way you think it is. Mm-hmm. And I sat and listened to that pastor for 30 minutes explain. He said, our area of Colorado Springs has gotten more and more liberal. And he said, so I cannot address these issues.
What?
He said, if I address, because I told him the two biggest subjects in the state of Colorado right now, 80% of the state does not like what's going on with the grooming. 70% doesn't like what's going on with crime.
They're 80-20 issues. Yeah. The Democrats are doubling down on it.
Well, and Democrats all across the state are going to vote for me for governor because of this. Mm-hmm. Their Marxist leadership is just doubling down. But And so he sat and explained. He said, look, my demographic here is just getting more and more liberal. He said, I cannot address grooming. He said, if I do, and he said, I cannot address abortion. I cannot address homosexuality. I can't address any of this stuff because my communities get more liberal. Well, here's the rest of the conversation. And this is the part where
I'm like, that's the reason why you do address it,
yes.
Not a reason why you don't.
Well, and I was trying to be polite for the sake of my friend there that had invited me to meet with him. But I told him, I said, communities get more liberal because churches say nothing. And I said, then when communities do get more liberal, the churches need to step up and say something, because now you have people in your church that are on their way to hell and nobody's telling them anything.
That's right.
You're sitting there with the opportunity to share Jesus, to share truth, to share the way out of this lifestyle, way out of these mentalities, a way that can save children's lives. And you're being quiet because you want people in your building You don't want people in the kingdom of God. You want them in your building. And our meeting ended rather quickly after that.
Yeah. Well, that's the shepherd in you and the prophetic voice that says you guys need to hear the truth, and you better hear it right now. And then you're gonna, because one of these days you're gonna stand before the Lord, right? Because we're all gonna stand before the Lord.
Yes.
So when did you make the decision the first time to run for the state legislature, and how did your church respond to that?
Yeah, that's some really interesting stuff. So a lot of people think I jumped into the political arena when COVID happened, which is not the case. My board and I actually had a board meeting in November of 19. And I told him, I said, here's what I'm seeing. This is what I think is about to happen. I've had people say, was that prophetic? Looking back now, I realize it was. At the time, I just was watching news. I try to keep aware of everything. Mm-hmm. And but I realize now, my board and I have even talked about this, that God was preparing us. Mm-hmm. So we came up with a plan. What happens when the government tries to shut down the church because of this flu, right? Which is at that time, that's kind of what we all recognize it being.
Right.
We nobody was sold on this. There's this COVID thing, and it's so different, and all this other stuff. It was just the flu. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi, actually, a news thing she did made me realize, hey, this is something that's about to blow up.
Yeah.
Okay.
What'd she do?
She had been in Chinatown, and not wearing a mask, not doing anything, tried to prove that the Wuhan lab and Chinese people coming to America were not carrying this crazy thing. And then the very next week, she's masked up and all this and saying this is a horrible pandemic that's going to be reaching America. Well, why did she flip like that? One week she's in Chinatown, hugging all these Chinese people, saying no problem here. So I immediately, I'm thinking through this, praying about this, and trying to get anything I can find about this. Okay, so I went to my board and said, let's set up a plan, because I think they're going to try to shut the churches down. They're going to use this anyway. And so my board was I had one board member that just millions of people are going to die, and so he left. He left the church over it, and he was one of my closest friends in the church. Yeah. But and I just told him, you're wrong.
That's painful too. It's so painful. Yeah.
Because now he's not serving God. He's not in the church. He's not doing anything. I could tell more about that. But so then all of this stuff hits in like February, right, of 20. And so we already had a plan. And one of those plans was when pastor goes to jail. We actually had that because the board wanted me to, let's all stand on the platform together. And we're in solidarity. I said, I don't think that's the right way. Let me do this unilaterally so you guys can get me out of jail. If we all go to jail, who gets us out of jail?
Right.
And so,
and just the fact that you're having to have these conversations,
it's
in the United States,
it's craziness.
It's crazy.
Scripture tells us in the last days that they will believe a lie. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now this is more, I would push this more into the transgender ideology than the COVID stuff, but it doesn't mean that people will be convinced that the lie is truth. That's not what the scripture says. It says that they will believe a lie. They know it's a lie. Mm-hmm. They are voluntarily believing something that they know is not true. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is where we were. And so we never closed our church. We never distanced. We never masked. We never did any of this stuff. We did take police caution tape and put it in our sanctuary in such a way that the camera angles, because we had an online presence for years.
Yes.
Nobody sat in that big triangle.
Yeah.
But then I would say something, you'd hear all these people amening or laughing or talking, but it looks like nobody's in the building. And we did that as a big joke. I didn't care if people, but I also didn't want people to be seen, because there were some people that were nervous about that. Oh, yeah. Because why? They're going to put you in jail for this stuff.
It's crazy.
All right. This is called Marxism.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of people think it started then. It really didn't. We never did any of that. And by the way, our church blew up.
Yeah.
Now the first week we had church, nobody was there. We had like 7 or 8 people. Maybe more than that.
Well, and I think you can, I can forgive that. I when they said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and people were like, we've never been here before. This is new.
Yeah.
And they trusted the voices of the people, Father Fauci, the high priest of the Branch Covidians, and all these people that were giving us this information. The vast majority of the general public had no reason not to trust them. And so they just trusted them.
Yes.
And then at the end of 2 weeks, Jay and I, we closed our business. And at the end of 2 weeks, we were like, okay, we did that.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, no, it's another week and another week and a month and 6 months and a year. And we were like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
I do give grace here. I didn't, If another church wanted to shut down, fine. Okay. But my caveat to that is, and I was shouting this from the rooftops at the time, but I was getting hate mail from other pastors.
Sure you were.
Not church people.
Of course you were. Yeah.
I never got one negative response from a church person. And our church flooded with people in the first few
Coming
weeks.
From
even.
other churches who wouldn't open.
We had gone down to one service because there was 10 people there. And but by Easter, that was 2.5, 3 months. We were already back into 2 services. And probably half these people were from churches all over Colorado Springs. Now, I do want to give a little bit of a break, because if pastors opened up within the first 2 or 3 months, okay, we, like you said, we had never been here.
Right, yeah.
All right. But past that, I've got pastors in Colorado Springs that I've been to their services, conferences, and different things, and they get up and talk about they never closed their doors and all. But I have people in my church from their church because they closed their doors. Mm-hmm. So now you're lying about it.
Yeah,
I don't get that.
Yeah,
so,
but why not just say we blew it?
Yeah, we made a mistake. We're going to fix it. I had a very dear friend of mine. He's an evangelist that travels all over. His name's Dave Reaver, and Dave was at my church like February, March of 20, because all the other churches shut down. He didn't have services, and I said, "Well, Dave, come to our church. We'll give you a good offering, all stuff." And he told me this profound statement here. He said, "Satan has poked the underbelly of the church and found it to be soft."
Yep.
The church, if the church would have stood up and not close their doors, and I mean at large across the nation, the pandemic would have stopped in that first 3 months.
I agree. Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Well, so most people think that's where my political aspirations or whatever started. Didn't. Because I've always been this way. They just didn't know it. All these people were coming in my church like, "Wow, you're this guy." And I'm like, "I've always been this guy."
Yeah, I've always been this guy.
And so.
But we've never had a pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a couple years later, I had some state representatives reach out to me over a few different phone calls and said, "Hey, we think you need to run for office." I'm like, "No, I'm a pastor. That's all I did. That's all I've done. It's my heart. It's my desire."
Yeah.
And my favorite thing to do is preach.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And to experience the Holy Spirit anointing your words to change people's lives. There's nothing better than that.
I agree.
And so they came to me, and then they kept harassing me, and they're friends, right? And then finally, one of them, she said, "Well, will you promise to pray about this?" I'm like,
oh no.
I thought, it sounds like a trap.
Yeah.
And so here I am now in office. And then last year, I'm saying in fall of 24, I really began to process. I had some very key people. I'd already been thinking about this. The story's too long, but to bring it down, I had some very key people in my life across the country that told me, you really need to run for governor. I'm like, again, no, but you got to be careful. This is just for the general audience out there. Be careful when you say no to God, because there's reasons you're saying no. And one of the biggest is the Holy Spirit's probably already telling you to do it, and you're resisting. And God loves that challenge.
Yeah.
He will.
I have had
he will
experience
rise to
with
the
that.
occasion.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I really started praying about running for governor. And our state is so perverted and broken and twisted that this is why I'm doing it. I really do believe. Same thing with Trump. I believe God gave our country another chance. And regardless of how well of a Christian you think Trump is or not, that's not what I'm discussing. What I'm discussing is God put him into that position to save our country.
Yes, I agree.
And God has given us another chance. And I think that's what he's doing with Colorado. We have become the worst state in the United States in many, many different arenas. We're the most human trafficking friendly state, the most pedophile friendly state in the United States. And I think God is giving Colorado a second chance.
When you talk about pedophilia and sex trafficking, a lot of people are still saying it's not that big of a deal, or they just think that happens in Colombia. But you and I have experience with. I mean, Portland's one of the worst in the nation, and a lot of these kids are being trafficked underground. What's going on in Colorado, and how did it get your attention? And what do you think, as governor, you can do about it?
Well, that's a lot altogether.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So right now, illegals that are coming across the southern border, the number one destination city in the United States is Denver.
Is it really?
And we have a couple of crossroads, 25 and 70 and 25 and 80. And 80 is right southern Wyoming across there, right? And so let me give you an example of how prolific this is in the state of Colorado. And I can give you 50 examples. Most people outside the state of Colorado have no idea this stuff is happening. But we tried to pass a law 3 years in a row, and I sat on the committee. I was trying to help them pass it, but I also sat on the committee, State Affairs, that this bill came to. And the bill basically was when somebody buys a child to rape a child, okay? We like to use terms like child prostitution. That is not a thing. 9-year-old girls don't become...
She's not going to volunteer for that.
Yes, that she is being raped.
Yeah.
Okay, and boys, too. Right now in Colorado, if you buy a child and to rape that child and you're caught in the act of raping the child, 90% of the time you're going to get off on probation.
What?
We just made a law this last spring in 25, that now we have all kinds of guidelines. If you rape a child once, if you rape the same child again, if you rape multiple children, but only once, there's all kinds of different levels of whether you're actually going to be prosecuted, whether you're going to go to jail or any of this stuff. As long as you rape different children under different circumstances.
We're living in Babylon.
This is worse than Babylon.
I mean, that's just...
This is craziness. And when I say this stuff, people go, that can't be true. Look up the laws. I did a podcast down in Texas that has reach into Colorado and different things. And there was like 300 something people that were chatting in and saying this is not true. So they had me come back a few months later and give all of the details, because they were actually kind of interviewing me more as a pastor than a representative. They said, this guy's just making all this up. No, you can find this information. This is public record. The reason that when they brought the bill forward and said, we just want a mandatory 4-year sentence, 4 years, because you were raping a child. And here's the interesting thing. The demographics for this is the people that are raping the child, are buying children to rape them, is white males between 40 to 45 years old. The demographics that they are buying is over 70% minority children. So I thought for sure the Black Caucus would be all over this. You want to talk about actual racism, not all this fake systemic racism stuff that they make up. But this could actually be a conversation of legitimate racism. One of the ladies, a Republican and a Democrat, brought the bill forward. One of the ladies that brought it was part of the Black Caucus. She was persecuted, hung out to dry, and now they're running against her in her own party. They're primarying her because and this is the only subject I agree with her on. She's pro-abortion, she's all kinds of things. But she tried to protect children that are being raped. And the Black Caucus came after her like crazy, okay? And I'll give you one other. This is all public record. We have the collections of the recordings and all this. One of the ladies on the Black Caucus at the time, actually, her argument was, the buyer is not, the buyer is actually the victim, not the child. Let's not put the buyer in prison because they'll just continue to be victimized. This is the mindset of the Black Caucus in the state of Colorado. And so a bunch of sheriffs and police and all these came and were testifying, please give us mandatory sentences. Now remember, they get off on probation 90% of the time. And I asked these sheriffs, everyone that came through, police officers, about 12 of them. And I said, what is the youngest that you have caught? Not your department, but you personally walked in and you caught these people raping these children. And every one of them said 2 years old. And they're getting off on probation 90% of the time. And these kids, this is the biggest part. These kids are not kids from Colorado. They're kids from Latin countries. They're kids from European countries. But somehow they're magically in Colorado and they're being sold all over the place in the state of Colorado. And by the way, this goes into our House, our Senate, and our governor's office. I was talking to your staff. I won't give more details on the podcast. I was talking to your staff earlier, who these people are. And because we know who some of these people are that are in high elected positions, and we know what they're doing.
That is wickedness.
And I've been working on this for 3 years, and I've been begging people to try to help me get to the root of this, but it just costs money to hire a company to do all this private surveillance and all this stuff. But we are getting close to actually moving forward on this.
So when you talk about tearing down the high places, you're not joking.
I'm not joking.
I mean, this is wickedness of the highest order. Anyone who would injure a child in that way it's a reprobate mind.
Yes.
And when we look around the country and we consider who's in positions of authority, you look at Scott Wiener in California. You can look at obviously, Nancy Pelosi and a lot of the people that are sitting right now on the floor of the House of Representatives, the United States Congress.
Yeah.
We have wickedness in so many places of authority in our country. And yet we continue. And the battle, right? We know this is God's people. The battle is a spiritual battle. Paul said, you're not fighting flesh and blood. You think it's flesh and blood. You don't understand the stakes. You don't get it.
Yeah.
And yet, as God's people, even though we should know God's word, we should understand spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places. But we continue to send people to the highest positions of authority in the land, to the front lines of a spiritual battle who can't wield spiritual weapons. Yeah. And then we wonder why we can't make any progress. Yeah. I told you before we started recording today that my biggest takeaway from my run for Congress, which I'm very happy that I ran. I don't have any plans to run again, but I
have you prayed about it?
Yeah, I prayed about this one.
I don't want to be the only one trapped by that question.
I'm not saying I would never, ever, ever do it again. I just know that for this cycle, I've got a child I want to graduate from high school, but I'm watching what's happening in the spiritual battle, in the spiritual realm, and it seems as plain as the nose on my face that we will continue to lose until God's people get off the bench, get onto the battlefield and engage. And what you're going to find, and I know that you have found this is true too, what you're going to find as soon as you enter that realm, it's the people that you least expect to attack you. Those are the ones who are going to make your life a living hell.
Yes.
Those are the ones who are going to oppose you at every turn. And it should be noted that before you make any decision to run for any office, I don't care if it's school board, I mean, those are some of the most vicious in the nation because access to children, right? If you consider the attacks that we're facing as a nation, I'd say 80% of them are aimed at children. Transgenderism targets children. Trafficking across our southern border targets children. Fentanyl across the southern border is targeting children. Oh my goodness, abortion, obviously targeting children. Surrogacy, targeting children, right? My friend Katie Faust has got an organization called Them Before Us, and they're trying very hard to overturn Obergefell because she's saying it's high time for people in this country to say, hey, let's stop putting the needs of self-centered, egocentric adults in front of the needs of children.
Yeah.
We're attacking the next generation. This is why school board races are so important. It matters who's sitting on these school boards.
School board races are the front lines in our country
100%.
Yeah. And definitely in our state. I'm in a minority. We're one seat out of a super minority. School board members have way more influence in the state than I do as a representative.
Isn't that amazing?
I feel like that's probably going to change when I'm governor, but they are the front lines, and we have to fight this fight. A lot of people don't realize, and this is what I kind of uncovered this on a personal level a while back. But you've got all the alphabet soup, right? The LGBTQ plus and all that. But here's what I found: is LGB is not the same thing as TQ plus. Most LGB is very much in conflict with TQ+. LGB is a sexual preference, okay? I've got some good friends that are part of the LGB community. Now, I still believe Scripture says it's a sin. I'm not ever going to shy away from the Bible. Romans 1 says that very clearly. But at the same time, some of the people that have fought alongside me the strongest are gays against groomers. Mm-hmm. And I can't get the church to wake up. And I preach this to my church. I know my church gets picked on a lot because I can't preach to everybody's church, right?
Right.
But I have called the church out quite a bit. The gay community is doing more than the church is to protect children from grooming. Mm-hmm. That's not okay. Mm-hmm. The TQ plus is a Marxist ideology.
Well, also, you got it. I would say, and I've interviewed several former homosexuals on my show over the years, some of them with amazing testimonies of being set free. I'd say upwards of 90% of them were abused somewhere along the line. And so they understand more than anybody
Yes.
why you don't go after children.
Yeah, and that's been a given. I mean, I've counseled people for 35 years. You understand that the gay community was almost all of them were abused is why they're part of the gay
100%.
community.
Yeah.
But here's what's happening with the transgender community is it become this fun, faddish thing into the younger crowd. Plus I'll even give you an initiative that I'm going to do that it's my most exciting thing. But right now they're being pushed into grooming. Well, that's Marxism. Take the top 5 things of what Marxism is, separate the family.
Yep. Check.
Control the children.
Check.
And take the children away. That's part of separate the family. Control your speech. Not even controlling your speech, but mandate you will say and believe these kind of things. That's what the transgender community does.
That's right.
I've never had anybody in the LGBT community tell me that I have to have some kind of controlled speech, that I have to do that, whatever. But the transgender community, I've been gavelled out of the well by our speaker, the Speaker of the House. And I did sue the governor and the speaker and won that one. I can explain. It's a big story, but because they're constantly stopping my freedom of speech in the Colorado House, and they reprimanded me they tried to censure me. They came up 2 votes short because I dead named somebody. I misgendered somebody.
Oh no, we can't have that.
Well, I have this huge speech.
The dead naming thing, it just cracks me up. I'm like, oh, okay.
I made this huge speech. It's on our website where I just told them, just because you come up with a fake paradigm that says that a man's a woman, or I said, you can do whatever you want. If a man wants to wear a dress, wear a dress. I don't care. Okay. Yeah. But when you start controlling that and saying I have to call that guy a woman, not going to happen.
Or when you say the man who wearing a dress now feels like he can go to the women's locker room, now we're going to have a problem because now your trans ideology is affecting real people other than the person who wants to pretend he's a woman.
Yes.
And that's the issue.
We had some aides that came to me. They had made a complaint, an official complaint that's supposed to be confidential. And they made this complaint to the Speaker of the House because there was a guy in their girls' bathroom, and he was supposedly transgender, but he was making comments and lewd remarks and all, in the bathroom with the other women. So they came to me and told me about this, and I started to fight with them about this, and finally they backed off and said, please don't. And I respect that. They said, please, we had made it a little public, and we're trying to get some traction. The Speaker of the House immediately came after these women, got transgender lawyers talking. It's supposed to be confidential. The Speaker's not supposed to hear about it. The majority leader or the minority leader are not supposed to be brought in on this. This is the state rules. And they immediately started persecuting these aides for all of this kind of stuff. And then the aides backed off because they were scaring them to death. Death threats, all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
And they were younger college age, a little bit older women with this, and then a couple older ones. But
well, everything that you're describing, I mean, I would think everyone listening to this with a half of a sense of spiritual discernment is going, shoot fire. Where are God's people?
Language lady.
I called I called everybody who was marching for the release of Nicolas Maduro idiots on my page the other day. I'm like, these idiots are out there. And the number of people that were like, Heidi St. John, that's a new low for you. Look at your language. It's just, the gospel. And I'm like, man, you guys read the room. I finally told one guy, get out your dictionary, open it up, look up the word idiot. Tell me, does it fit or does it not fit?
Yeah. Is your picture there?
Right. Is your picture there? Well, it's just, it's, to me, that's a false sense of piety anyway. Yeah. It's like, you don't want to talk about the issue of transgenderism. You don't want to talk about what's happening to these young people who are being butchered in surgical suites across the United States. You don't want to talk about the horrors of abortion. But boy, if Heidi St. John uses the word idiot, suddenly I'm the bad guy. That's gaslighting 101. And I think most people in my position, your position, are just sort of over it.
Yeah.
If you're going to run for office, you have to listen to, and obviously, sometimes I can say things because I'm upset or that I go, oh, okay, all right, I take that back. Maybe that was a little bit, okay, I'm sorry, I hurt your big feelings. I'm sorry, I understand, big feelings. But for the most part, we better start having very frank, very honest discussions about what's happening and stop worrying about, all the people in the corners who haven't come away from the 4 walls of their churches in 47 years and are just clutching their pearls over things that don't matter.
Yeah.
That's what really drives me crazy. I wonder what you think about, because you're running for governor. So we've touched a little bit on President Trump. What's your feeling over the actions of the United States and I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but recently in Venezuela.
I was really excited to see President Trump go in and take Maduro out. This is, you're seeing all of these crazy leftists and liberals all over the place saying, how dare you go in and take Maduro out? You've declared war on Venezuela. We haven't declared war on Venezuela. Maduro declared war on Venezuela, right. Took over the country by a coup.
He's not their president.
And then he declared war on the United States.
Yeah, he said, come and get me.
He said, I love that he said that first.
I love that he said that. I was like, oh, that's not going to age well.
Yeah.
And in fact, it did not.
No. See, here's the thing with President Trump. That guy is pretty amazing on a lot of different levels. But one of the things is when you publicly call him out, he can't do that.
No.
He's got that alpha male personality.
Remember, he was just like,
says,
come and get me. And I was like, oh, dear. Yeah. Trump was like, well, okay.
Yeah, we'll come and get you.
Yeah, we'll come get, and they did. And without so much as a hiccup on the world stage.
No.
I mean, this was executed flawlessly by Delta Force. Should have been applauded by every single person with a brain in their head in the United States. But you can see, again, the effects of our broken education system with these, white-haired lunatics, these leftist boomers, and the 24-year-olds who have been educated at college, marching for the release of a Marxist dictator. Unbelievable.
Yeah, what happened to no kings?
Right, I know. I thought you guys didn't like the king.
No. Dictators are fine, not kings. Kings are bad.
Did you see my favorite meme out of all of the memes, because it's meme gold right now, right on this, was the one, you've probably seen it, where President Trump is in like a magician's outfit, and he has the magician's hat, and there's a rabbit coming out of the hat, and he's got a magic wand in one hand and a deck of cards over here. And he's like, and for my next trick, I'm going to get the Democrats to actually cheer for a dictator.
Yes. Which is not actually that difficult to do
It's
nowadays.
really not. No, because they're unhinged.
Well, here's how this subject affects Colorado so much, okay? So we have what's called Dominion voting machines in Colorado.
The same in Washington.
Right? Well, the proprietary technology of those is Venezuelan. They were started in Venezuela. We were a red state up until the Dominion voting machines came. The very next year, we're a blue state. How do you flip an entire? We weren't purple. We were red and then blue. Our elections have been so corrupt for so long and we have evidence, we have proof, stacks, reams of paper about this, that our votes were going back and forth between Colorado and Venezuela real time during election. So why does Venezuela need to know what our votes are? Now, I'm sure they didn't change one vote.
No.
There's no way Maduro would do that.
They were just watching, kind of like with the Greyhound races. People were betting and stuff, and they wanted to see it in real time. I mean, give them a break.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So not only that, but the DEA has said that the headquarters for the Venezuelan cartel in the United States is in Aurora, Colorado. Ooh. They have set up shop there. They took over a couple of blocks, went over and just took over apartment complexes.
Yep.
Our governor said nothing to see here. That's not really happening. That's smoke and mirrors. Not true. Okay, conspiracy.
Propaganda.
The mayor of Denver, Johnson, said nothing to see here. Attorney General said nothing to see, and he's actually sued Trump over this. He's also running for governor right now, and I think he's going to be in jail before the election happens. Sorry, you can't be governor if you're in jail. And then the mayor of Aurora said nothing to see here. The chief of police, and I talked to more than a dozen police officers in Aurora. The chief of police of Aurora told his officers to stand down. That space now belongs to the Venezuelan cartel. One of the three jobs of the governor in the state of Colorado is to protect this is constitutional, to protect the citizens of Colorado from foreign adversaries. This doesn't mean Texans. This is Venezuelans, okay? And we have set up shop there. The Venezuelan government, Maduro, the cartel, they're all the same thing. This last spring released a statement that said, because they're not scared of America, Maduro loves to threaten our government. And he said that the reason the cartel is in Colorado, belongs in the United States, is because they are there to overthrow and to disrupt our political systems and our financial systems. Now, do they run drugs? Yes. Do they run children? Yes. But Maduro specifically said to overthrow our elections. He said this, and I've been shouting this, and nobody's paying attention to this. Now, obviously, Trump is, but here's the thing. This affects Colorado directly. You know the whole Minnesota Somalian thing that's going on right now? That is Colorado Venezuelan. we gave over just this last spring, we gave over $560 million to illegal immigrant issues and plans and programs. Most of that is going to prop up the Venezuelan cartel in Colorado, because they are there as the military police force of the Marxist wing of the Democrat Party that controls our state to overthrow our political systems in Colorado. Same thing they're trying to do all over the United States. And if you keep your eyes shut to this stuff, they are going to, well, Maduro's pulled out now because Trump knows this stuff. They're trying to turn our country into a Marxist country. This is why, let me give you a little insight. You pay attention to news a lot. You're hearing a lot more. We've been hearing for years, but it's really came out strong the last 6 or 8 months, specifically when Trump sent the National Guard into Los Angeles. You're starting to hear all the media talks about, well, this is Trump's trying to tear down our democracy, trying to destroy our democracy. Where here's the problem. We're not a democracy.
We are a constitutional republic.
We're a republic. But
Yes.
see, you can't go from republic to Marxism.
Yes, you cannot.
You have to have something in between to make that possible. Because if
Democracy
not, you
really
have
is mob rule. I mean,
is mob rule.
At the end of the day, democracy is mob rule. And unfortunately, and not to keep bringing it back to education, but most of the young people in this country, I'd say probably 3 or 4 generations worth, they don't even know that we're a constitutional republic.
They don't know what it is.
They don't know what a democracy actually is. And when you hear someone like Maxine Waters or Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar talk about these are existential threats to our democracy, I'm wondering, I'm waiting for a reporter to say, define democracy.
Yeah.
Define it.
Yeah.
What are you living in? But they don't even know. These are people in positions of authority, and they're ruining the country.
Well, the 51 can tell the 49 what to do.
That's right.
Once you're a democracy, mob rule, the 51 control. And here's the thing. People don't realize that when Hitler came into power the first time, he was voted in by a democracy. And then he killed all of his, the Night of the Knives or whatever it's called. He then killed all of his opponents because he was voted in. That's what people want in our country right here is let's get rid of the republic, get rid of the electoral college and all these kind of things. Take the power away from representative leadership.
We're going to be in trouble.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're done. The 51 can vote in Marxism or all of the elements of Marxism, and then we become a Marxist state. The 51 can take away your guns to defend yourself against a tyrannical government. I just had an interview a couple days ago about the Second Amendment, and they were saying, well, why is it so important? What about modern guns? The forefathers couldn't have foreseen the modern guns.
Ask them in Australia why it's so important.
Exactly.
Ask them over in the UK why it's so important.
Ask the Jews in Germany during World War II.
Yeah.
And the idea that we can't have modern guns. If the reason for the Second Amendment is to defend yourself against a tyrannical government, then shouldn't you have weapons that at least are close enough to what the government owns to be able to defend yourself? It doesn't make sense. So the Venezuelan thing, we also had, this one got almost no media coverage. One of our sheriffs down in South Central Colorado, in rural area, just a rural road coming across from the mountains on the southern side, stopped a van that was driving erratically. Nothing major. It wasn't a sting or anything like that. The guys were acting uncomfortable. They were undocumented, illegal. Let me say the right word. They were illegal in the country. So he opens up the van, 800,000 rounds of ammunition in the back of this van had come up from Mexico to Utah, and then was coming to Pueblo, Colorado, which is a smaller city in the southern part of Colorado, Denver, Colorado Springs, and then Pueblo. And this was one van. This was directly tied to the Venezuelan cartel. At the exact same time this was happening, the Venezuelan cartel were trying to set up another place down in Colorado Springs, just a couple miles from my home. And the ICE had coordinated with all these sheriffs and police, which, by the way, it is illegal for a sheriff officer, police officer, CBI, anybody in the state of Colorado to pick up the phone and call ICE and say, hey, I've detained an illegal immigrant here. It is against the law to communicate, for the police department to communicate with ICE.
Holy moly.
That is a major part of our problem. Most people don't believe this stuff. I'm telling you, look at our laws in Colorado. We are by far the most liberal state in the United States right now. So they were trying to set up this huge cartel thing out of this big nightclub bar that was going on. And so the ICE had done this and arrested 100 illegal, a little over 100 illegal immigrants that night. They were
I
all,
read about it. Yeah,
they were all from the Venezuelan cartel out of Denver. They had been tracking them back and forth. Well, the media, this is local. This isn't CNN. We know CNN are a bunch of communists. We know MSNBC are a bunch of lunatics. Okay. Mm-hmm. This was local media was saying how this was not a legitimate bust, that ICE was just going in there and harassing a bunch of innocent illegal immigrants and all this stuff. But it's not true. This sting had been going on for months.
But the story eventually did come out, because I read exactly what you're saying, and I don't know where I read it. I don't read the communist newspaper here is called the Columbian, and I don't usually read it. But I do remember reading, I think what you would agree with was the truth of the situation. But unfortunately, most people are still getting their news from the legacy media. Most people are still getting their information or they're being heavily influenced by social media. And by the way, as the elections are coming now more into focus, because we're in an election year, I think it's really important that we start talking to people about how conservatives treat each other online in election years. We have got to stop the infighting in the conservative movement and the Republican Party. Look what's happened in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, the fissures within the movement. A house that's divided against itself cannot stand. The Democrats, all they need is a little bit of an opening. And I'm curious what you think's going to happen. We've got about 5 minutes left. I'm curious what you think will happen if we cannot get Christians out to vote, and if we cannot get some semblance. I hate the word rhino. I wish people would stop using it. One little disagreement with a fellow conservative, and all of a sudden, bam, that person's a rhino, or I'm a rhino. This is how we lose. This is why we can't have nice things. So I'm curious to know, what do you think will happen if those things continue? If the church continues to set this out, and if Republicans can't start actually working together?
Yeah, I think we have this window of opportunity in Colorado right now. All of our statistics are showing us that we're going to have a Republican governor. I know that sounds crazy, and I have a hard time convincing people in Colorado, Republicans in Colorado, but we know that Democrats are pulling apart.
I think we're having a hard time convincing people. We're having the same problem here in Washington State. People are like, listen, we voted for this thing, then the legislature overturned it. We got the initiative on the ballot and they threw it out on a technicality. Here we passed a parental rights amendment. Overwhelmingly, the people did. Got it on the ballot. It passed. The Democrats threw it out.
We do the same thing in Colorado.
And so I think people are discouraged. I mean, Republicans are like, also, I think we got to stop telling people, everything's rigged. The voting's rigged, because what we've done is we've disenfranchised the voters, because then they're like, well, then I'm not going to come out. I'm not even going to try.
There's very little hope on the Republican side in Colorado at mass, but this is.
How do you infuse them with hope, Scott? I mean, how do you do that?
Well, I try to give them the truth about this. I used to spend a lot of time in my town halls and things saying, okay, here's where the state is. These are my initiatives that are going to fix things. These are my principles and all this kind of stuff that's going to fix it.
And they're like, no more stump speeches. We want to go beyond it.
And I have all my platform online. My platform is light years ahead of compared to any other Republican candidate. And I am way ahead of any Republican. I'm more than twice as far ahead of all the Republicans put together. Now, with that being said, I've shifted gears and tried to just give people hope. Forbes magazine did an article a couple months ago that said that Colorado is no longer a blue state, that it's going to have a Republican governor if they can get a strong candidate, which I'm that guy. And so Denver Post has done this. Wall Street Journal has done these kind of articles. Everybody outside of Colorado is saying to the Democrat leaders. Forbes magazine actually said in the last two sentences, this is a shot across the bow to the Democrats. Okay, they're trying to wake up the Democrat leadership because it's become so far Marxist, so far leftist that the Democrats across the state of Colorado are not okay, and they're going to vote for me for governor. The hope that I try to give is I could give statistics all day long, but somewhere you got to believe in your heart we can do this.
Yes.
If you don't vote, then don't complain. Well,
that's Mike Ferry saying the surest way you want to lose a fight, just don't show up to fight.
Just don't show up.
Just don't
the
stay
church
home
is also
and
waking up. That's a big long story, but I've been working diligently with the pastors across the state of Colorado, trying to wake them up. I'm getting a lot of a push in there in a very positive way. Now I used to beg, can I just have coffee with you and talk to you? Now I'm getting literally hundreds of pastors that are saying to me, how can we do this? We're seeing the Hispanic vote is strongly turning to the right in Colorado.
Absolutely. Well, and after what we saw happen in Venezuela, I think we're going to see even greater numbers of Hispanics.
And the biggest group in the United States and in Colorado that is moving to the right is the under 30 crowd.
Absolutely true.
Very strongly.
Happening here in Washington State as well.
And so you put all this stuff together, and I could give you another 30 minutes of this, but it's simple for this. If we can just, in Colorado, I don't know about everywhere, Washington State, I don't know about everybody else, but just in Colorado, if we can just get behind me as leadership, and obviously I'm the guy that I want everybody to get behind, but I'm the one in the race, and Republicans are dropping out right now, and we've got some people in the race that shouldn't be there for a lot of different reasons. But either way, if they can just get behind me, and here's another thing, and I think this is one of the biggest, is across our country, the reason we elected Donald Trump is because, and specifically the younger crowd, we're wanting a strong leader. We've been told for so many years that you just have to go along to get along. You can't be who you are. You can't have principles. I get attacked more by Republicans than Democrats.
Sadly, I understand that. I'm sure that's true.
And part of the reason is because I'm a strong leader. I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to play the same old game. I'm not going to try to just move to the middle so I can get everybody to like me. I didn't run this race to make friends. I ran this race to reclaim Colorado. And I am this strong leader that the younger crowd is already rallying behind. I get this all over the state of Colorado. They want leadership. And even the older crowd is saying, I'm saying older crowd like me, but the older crowd, we're wanting leaders.
Yeah.
Everybody didn't vote on Donald Trump because they believed all his policies. They knew he was a leader and he wasn't going to give in. He wasn't bought by anybody.
Yeah. You wasn't going to do the Barack Obama red line.
No.
And,
go apologize to world leaders all over the world.
That was terrible. Yeah. The National Apology Tour. And then we saw, Joe Biden actually threaten Nicolas Maduro, but never followed through on any of this stuff, which I think it's really rich now that the Democrats are like, I can't believe Trump did that. It's like, you said you would do it and you guys didn't have the kahunas to get it done. Yeah. So now Trump gets in there and Trump is getting it done, and the Democrats are crying crocodile tears. It's unbelievable.
Didn't Biden put out a $25 million bounty?
Yeah, he put
Maduro's
a bounty
head?
on him. Absolutely.
Well, shouldn't Biden pay Trump that bounty?
I feel like he should.
Right?
I feel like he should. We could start a petition.
So Maduro was a bad guy then.
Yeah.
But now.
Now he's just a misunderstood leader. He's misunderstood, Scott. It's okay. It's fine.
For us in the state of Colorado, I am fighting for these kids. That is my number one issue. I will not let you groom our children. Now, we've constitutionalized abortion, so I'm going to have to figure out how to get that one. I mean, the governor has no ability there. Neither does the legislature. It's been constitutionalized. Although the Democrats will completely override anything.
How do you get a constitutional amendment, though?
You do it through ballot initiative. It has to be a vote of the people.
So that is something you could do, though, because
I can start the ballot initiative.
You can start that process, and you can start talking to the people of Colorado to say, this is a grave injustice that needs to be remedied. Here's the remedy. I think a lot of times people don't know what the remedy is. They feel hopeless. I, for one, am thrilled about your candidacy. And, there's a huge part of me that still has a home in Colorado. And so I'm just, praying for spiritual revival in Colorado, also here in Washington State, which I love this place that I call home. God calls us to pray for the peace and the prosperity of the cities in which we live, because guess what? If they prosper, we also prosper. Right. God's people are called to the sphere of politics. People that are not in Colorado can support your run financially, I'm assuming.
Oh, yes.
So in the minute that we've got left here, I want to just make the pitch, because I run for office. I know how hard it is. People say, why is it all about money? I'd like to see everybody try and go out and buy a television ad. It's expensive. Take out a billboard, send out a mailer. Every time you do that, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. It's very expensive to run a campaign. If people who are interested in helping you want to help you, even if they're not from the state of Colorado, what's the best way for them to do it?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this, too. I appreciate it. We've actually been working in Colorado. Every year I've been in the legislature, we've cut the amount of funds that I can raise in half every year, in half. You're not going to believe this. As a governor candidate in the state of Colorado, the most I can get from one person is $1,450.
Whoa. So you need a lot of people.
I need a lot of people.
Okay.
Like a husband and wife can give obviously $2,900.
Yeah, but still, that's not a lot of money.
I mean, some states there's no limits. Some states like $50,000 a person kind of thing.
Yeah, Washington has a pretty strong limit also.
Well, part of the reason for that is because all the people that run for governor are millionaires. Governor Polis, the one that's being term limited right now, he put $33 million of his own money into his own campaign, and he was 9-point expected winner, and he still put $33 million. The guy I'm going to be running against, most likely Senator Bennett, he'll probably have 40, 50 million in, and probably 20, 25 of that will come from Governor Polis.
How much? What are they telling you? How much money are they telling you need to raise?
My team has worked on this across the state. We have thousands of people that are mobilizing. In fact, just next week we're having like our first informational meeting about our ground game, and then the ground game's already starting, but we're starting to put people into it. We think we can get there with 7 to 10 million. It'll be up against 40 to 50 million. People that say, well, you have to have 20 million or 25, it's because they have no support at the ground roots level. I am strongly supported all over the state. Like I said earlier, I'm light years ahead of all the rest of the Republicans. I'm in the same numbers, and this is Democrats that have told me this, and our statistics say the same thing. I'm in the same numbers as the Democrats in our state. And so
you have an actual shot.
Yes, I do.
Winning.
No, I more than an actual shot. If we had the election right now, I'd be governor. We know this. Everything. I'll give you one example. I had a Democrat reporter, works with PBS. He only does interviews with very, very liberal. He's a podcast, a bunch of stuff. Very, very liberal Democrats, and he called me in for an interview. And I go into the PBS building by a Democrat. He's a black guy, coach. He's actually a wonderful guy. I really enjoy getting to know him. Great guy. And I said, "Why did you interview me? Why me? I'm not an extremely liberal Democrat." And he said, "Your numbers are off the charts." He said, "The Democrats are telling me pay attention because his numbers are off the charts." That's why some of the legacy media stopped talking about me. Before, they used to harass me constantly. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, nothing. They love me now, or at least are quiet. And he said, "You are actually tracking higher than our Senator Bennett, the number one expected guy to run as a Democrat. I'm tracking high with Democrats." And Colorado has 52% of the state is unaffiliated independents. And I've been told for years, the only way you're going to get independents and unaffiliated is if you don't stand on anything. Be in the middle, be wishy-washy. Don't take a stand. Don't say anything about this kind of thing. I'm the most conservative guy in the House. I think I'm probably the most conservative Republican in the state, and maybe a couple right in there with me. But I am my market share. I'm tracking with unaffiliated and independents at 49.5%. Wow. I am going to be the next governor of Colorado. Wow. I need the money. We're mobilizing the people. So scottbottoms.com. You can go to scottbottoms.com. And then they can figure out if people who are in Colorado, they can probably sign up to help you, right? You're gonna need people going door knocking. You're gonna need all kinds of things. I mean, the ground game has to be huge for an election like this. Our ground game is going to be huge.
It's gonna need to be.
We already know we need to get 350,000 Democrat votes between Denver and Fort Collins, which is the I-25 corridor.
I had the worst experience of my COVID life in Fort Collins. I gotta tell you,
Fort Collins is very liberal.
Boy, I'll tell you what.
Most people think, Denver and Boulder.
No, Fort Collins, man.
We call Boulder the...
I love you, Fort Collins. You guys are off the chart.
Yeah, they are. Boulder's bad, but Fort Collins is probably pushing them on liberalism right now.
I could see it.
But we've already been working the ground game since last year, just softening the ground. I don't want to give you all of our strategies, but we've been doing a lot of stuff. We know where this stuff is going to come from. We're going to have thousands of people that have already said, "I want to volunteer. What can I do?"
How's your church responding to your run for governor?
Our church, when I first got up the first time, and I'm going to run for representative, right? Yeah. I went to each of my board members privately.
Is it a part-time job? In Washington State, it's a part-time gig. In Colorado, is it also part-time?
It's considered a citizens legislature,
yes.
So we meet from January to May.
Gotcha.
Now, first month or so, it's going to be a little calm, but we start slow is what I mean.
Yeah.
But by the end, we're there till 10 midnight every single night, at least 6 days a week.
And all you're doing is trying to keep them from passing all this garbage.
That's all we're trying to do.
You got one job. It's to put your hand up and say, "No, we're not doing that."
Well,
it's increasingly difficult.
My primary is I'm talking to that camera that's live streaming us. And because we're going to take videos of that, my responsibility is to educate the people. We're not getting anything done in that room.
Yep.
But if I can educate the people, and not just people of Colorado, but people across the state that have no idea what Colorado has become.
Yeah. We
are trafficking children right in Denver, and everybody knows about it. And elected officials are doing it, and everybody knows about it. Please, thank you for saying it. So let me say, please, scottbottoms.com. If you want to give big chunks of money, there's PACs and stuff that can help you with that in the state of Colorado. We contact our campaign. We can't directly be attached to a PAC. I don't,
right.
I don't have a PAC. That's not how it works in Colorado. Mm-hmm. There's lots of PACs that are trying to do some very strong conservative stuff in Colorado that I'm sure will help me too. But if you just want to give the $14.50, if we get hundreds and hundreds of people to do that, we can get to our goals.
Yeah, I love that. Scott Bottoms, it's such a pleasure, truly.
My
pleasure,
have you here. My privilege and pleasure.
Thank you for coming, and we'll be praying for you. We'll be watching you. Keep me posted. Keep me on your short list. And if you've got updates, we'll have you back on, do video segments. And
yes,
I think people need hope, and this is hopeful. Because I think if people say, well, if it can happen in Colorado, it can happen in Oregon. And if it can happen in Oregon, it can happen in Washington. But God's people must engage.
Let me leave you with this, because what you said is vital there, all across the United States. On election night, November 3rd, 2026, when MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, all of our local affiliates in Colorado Springs, Denver, Fort Collins, Grand Junction, all those, when they are forced to announce that a Christian conservative pastor, still pastoring his church, just got elected as governor of Colorado. Think about the shockwaves across the nation, not just across Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
We have become the most liberal state in the United States. We are second in crime in the entire United States. Think about the reverberations. And for people in Washington, in New Mexico, in North Carolina, that say, you know what? We can do this.
Yep.
If he can do that in Colorado, which means it had to have been a God thing.
Yep.
If he can do that in Colorado, get out of our way. We can do this anywhere in the United States.
True. Absolutely true. And I think that's why this race, obviously one to watch, but one to support. And I know my people are going to do it. They're good about that. So
that's awesome. Thank you for the plug there.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on. We're praying for you. Thanks for your courage and for standing up, for being a bold pastor.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, I hope that's been encouraging to you. I went a little bit over time today, but what I'm going to encourage you to do is to, first of all, be prayerful about supporting Scott's campaign financially. These campaigns are very expensive, and money really does help. It really does help, and he's going to need your help. So scottbottoms.com, check it out. Also, I'm going to encourage you to share the podcast. You guys, we cannot afford to lose the midterms. You need to get off the bench, get onto the battlefield, get educated wherever you live. Find out about who's running for office, and help. Do your part. If you love the country and if you believe that God's people should be involved, you guys, politics determines policy. Policy shapes the nation. God's people need to again be in the business of shaping policy, which will shape the nation. Thank you guys so much for listening today. If you want to join me for my women's study, you can do that right now by going to faiththatspeaks.com. That's faiththatspeaks.com. We are going through strategies in spiritual warfare for the first 3 months of 2026. I can't wait for you guys to join me and learn how to gird up and get off the bench. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. I'll see you back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.